Welcome back, Coinology. In the year 2010, a new chapter began in the story of the United States 1-cent coin. For more than a century, Americans had grown accustomed to seeing the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, a design that first appeared in 1909 to honor the centennial of his birth. But the reverse side of the coin had gone through several transformations, first the simple wheat ears of the Lincoln wheat cent from 1909 to 1958, then the Lincoln Memorial that stood proudly in Washington, D.C. from 1959 to 2008, and finally, in 2010, the new Union shield that would symbolize Lincoln's efforts to preserve the nation during its most divided time. When people first saw the 2010 cent, it felt at once modern and deeply rooted in history. Collectors immediately recognized that this was not just another small coin, it was a tribute to the unity of the United States and to the enduring memory of the man who fought to keep it whole. The coin itself weighs 2.5 grams, a composition that has remained constant since 1982, 97.5% zinc, coated with 2.5% copper to give it the traditional reddish-brown luster that Americans associate with pennies. Its diameter is 19.05 millimeters, its thickness 1.52 millimeters, and its edge is plain. The P mint mark identifies those struck at the Philadelphia Mint, while D marks those from Denver. No San Francisco business strike cents were produced in 2010, though proof versions were minted for collectors. When the design was unveiled, it marked the culmination of a decade of transition. In 2009, the U.S. Mint had celebrated Lincoln's 200th birthday with 4 commemorative reverse designs showing scenes from his life, his birth and early childhood in Kentucky, his formative years in Indiana, his professional life in Illinois, and his presidency in Washington, D.C. The 2010 shield cent was intended to bring those stories together, one simple image to represent the union that Lincoln fought to save. The reverse was designed by Lyndall Bass and sculpted by United States Mint sculptor engraver Joseph Mena. It features a Union shield with 13 vertical stripes representing the original states joined by a single horizontal bar across the top symbolizing federal government support and unity. Across that bar, the motto E pluribus unum, out of many, one, is etched boldly. The shield itself recalls Civil War-era emblems that decorated Union banners and government documents in the 1860s, connecting the design directly to Lincoln's own time. The obverse remained familiar, Victor David Brenner's beloved portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing right, with the legend "In God We Trust" arching overhead, liberty to the left, and the year 2010 with the mint mark beneath it on the right. Even after more than a century, Brenner's portrait continues to capture the dignity and resolve of Lincoln's face, his deep-set eyes and slight smile reminding viewers of the burden of leadership he carried. When the first 2010 cents entered circulation in February of that year, they sparked instant interest among collectors and the general public. People noticed the shiny new design and the sharp lines of the shield. For many, it was a moment of nostalgia and renewal, at once a small symbol of strength in a time when the nation was recovering from a financial recession. Coin dealers reported a surge in roll sales, and the U.S. Mint's direct orders for 2010 uncirculated sets were quickly snapped up by collectors hoping to secure the first-year issue of the shield cent. The Denver Mint alone produced more than 2.4 billion of these coins, while the Philadelphia Mint struck about 2 billion. Together they formed one of the largest mintages in modern history. Yet even in such huge numbers, certain specimens would become extraordinary either because of flawless condition or because of unique minting errors that occurred in the presses that year. Some of these errors included off-center strikes, die cracks along the shield, and doubled die obverse that showed subtle doubling on the letters of liberty and "In God We Trust." Collectors would later spend years searching for those rare varieties, knowing that a single mistaken strike could turn a 1-cent coin into something worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. The 2010 shield cent also became a subject of debate within the numismatic community. Some enthusiasts felt that the design was too simplistic compared to the grandeur of the Lincoln Memorial, while others praised its clean lines and historical symbolism. But no one denied that it was a moment of transition, a new era for the cent that had survived more than 100 years of economic change. By 2010, the actual metal value of the coin was already less than a cent, yet the government continued to mint them because of tradition and public demand. It cost the mint almost 1.8 cents to produce each penny, a paradox that sparked occasional calls to eliminate the denomination altogether. Still, the shield cent carried forward the nation's sentimental attachment to its most humble coin. In the years since, high-grade examples of the 2010 shield cent have appeared in auctions with remarkable prices. Coins graded MS-68 red by professional grading services such as PCGS or NGC are extremely rare, and their value has soared to thousands of dollars. Some proof issues from the San Francisco Mint, with their mirror-like fields and frosted devices, are prized for their beauty and precision. In certain auction stories that captured public imagination, unique error coins from 2010 have been rumored to fetch values in the tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars, though those figures often reflect the fever of collecting passion more than market norms. ASA symbol, the 2010 cent represents continuity. It bridges a century of design evolution, from Brenner's original Lincoln portrait to the modern interpretation of national unity. For a nation that has seen technological revolutions and social change, the penny remains a constant presence in everyday life, tossed into jars, given as change, pressed into souvenirs at museums and parks. To many collectors, it's not about the monetary value of the metal but about the story that each tiny disc of copper-plated zinc tells. When a numismatist examines a 2010 shield cent under magnification, they see more than a design. They see layers of history pressed into metal, the legacy of Lincoln himself, the evolution of American minting technology, and the ongoing debate about the future of the penny. They notice the crisp bevel of the letters, the precise curves of the shield stripes, the fine texture of Lincoln's coat and hair. In high mint state, the coin gleams with a deep red luster that reflects light in concentric rings, giving it the appearance of something newly forged yet ancient in meaning. Collectors often speak about the personality of a coin, and the 2010 cent has a distinct one. It carries a sense of dignity, the strength of the shield offset by the human warmth of Lincoln's portrait. It's as if the coin embodies two American ideals: individual leadership and national unity. This duality has helped it resonate with collectors and historians alike. Today, in the numismatic market, a perfectly preserved 2010D or 2010P shield cent graded MS69 or MS70 red can fetch astonishing prices in private sales, sometimes reportedly reaching over $12,000 or more depending on demand and rarity of the slab specimen. Rumors and headlines of coins selling for millions often capture public attention, though the true market rests with condition, error type, and collector fervor. What's undeniable is that even a single cent can carry a story of extraordinary worth, a story not measured in dollars but in heritage. That is where the legend of the 2010 cent begins. A small piece of metal worth a penny in commerce, but priceless in what it represents about a nation's past and its continuing search for unity. It is the modern heir to Lincoln's memory, a symbol of the Union he saved and the values he embodied: honesty, hard work, and faith in democracy. Every time you hold a 2010 shield cent in your hand, you're touching a bridge between 2 centuries of American history, a continuum of art, politics, and economics forged into a single coin. As the story of the 2010 Lincoln shield cent unfolds further, we enter the intricate world of its creation and symbolism, the quiet halls of the U.S. Mint where millions of these coins came to life, and the human stories behind their design and production. Each cent struck in that year carried within it a legacy not only of history but of artistry and industrial mastery. Imagine the rhythmic thunder of coining presses in Denver and Philadelphia, the glint of bright planchets tumbling down stainless steel chutes, and the spark of pride among workers who knew they were crafting the first of a new generation of Lincoln cents. The year 2010 was one of innovation and reflection. The U.S. Mint, one of the oldest institutions in American history, had long been experimenting with modern minting technology, high-speed presses, laser engraving, and digital die creation. The 2010 shield cent was among the first coins fully designed using digital sculpting software that allowed engravers to achieve an unprecedented level of precision. Lyndall Bass, the artist behind the reverse, had drawn inspiration from Civil War-era heraldry and from the concept of protection and unity. The shield design is not just decorative, it carries layers of meaning. The 13 vertical stripes echo the 13 colonies that formed the original United States, while the horizontal bar at the top represents the federal government binding them together as one. For collectors and historians, this symbolism feels poetic when paired with Lincoln's own legacy, the man who fought to keep the Union intact at all costs. In the early months of 2010, collectors began lining up at banks and coin shows, eager to get their hands on freshly minted rolls. Entire online communities sprang to life, trading sealed boxes of 2010D and 2010P shield cents, speculating which mint would produce the higher quality strikes. The Denver Mint quickly earned a reputation for slightly sharper details and more consistent color, while the Philadelphia Mint issues were often praised for their clean surfaces and fewer planchet defects. For numismatists, such subtleties can mean the difference between an ordinary cent and a highly graded treasure. Every coin that leaves the mint begins its journey anonymously. It tumbles into bins, is wrapped into rolls, shipped in bulk, and spread across the nation's financial arteries, banks, cash registers, vending machines, pockets. But a small fraction of them never enter circulation. They are pulled aside by collectors, preserved in airtight capsules, and studied with magnifying glasses and microscopes. These are the coins that survive time, the flawless specimens that someday may define the history of an era. The 2010 shield cent, though produced by the billions, has yielded very few such perfect survivors. This rarity within abundance is what fascinates collectors. Coin grading services like PCGS and NGC use a 70-point scale to measure condition, where 70 represents absolute perfection: no marks, no scratches, no contact with other coins. Out of billions minted, only a handful of 2010 shield cents have ever achieved that lofty grade. These few pieces gleam with a brilliant red luster, their surfaces untouched by air or human hands. They are the gold standard of numismatic preservation, commanding extraordinary prices in auctions and private collections. One of the most intriguing aspects of the 2010 cent is how it represents continuity and change. On one side, Lincoln's portrait remains, almost unchanged since 1909, symbolizing the endurance of American ideals. On the other, the Union shield looks forward, representing the strength of the Republic in the modern world. This duality mirrors the way America itself sees its history, rooted in tradition but always moving toward the future. The decision to keep Lincoln on the obverse was never in question; he had become inseparable from the identity of the penny. What changed was the message on the reverse, a shift from the architectural majesty of the Lincoln Memorial to the heraldic simplicity of the shield. The Lincoln Memorial reverse, introduced in 1959 for the coin's 150th anniversary, had been an icon of mid-20th century design. Yet by the 2000s, it had become so familiar that it blended into everyday life. The shield reverse, by contrast, felt new, bold, and symbolic. It returned the penny to a more classic style, reminiscent of 19th century motifs. This was not just a design change, it was a philosophical one. The shield design restored the coin's sense of strength and purpose at a time when the world economy was recovering from crisis, and faith in institutions was fragile. In that way, the penny once again became a quiet messenger of American resilience. Among the most remarkable things about the 2010 cent story is how quickly myths and rumors grew around it. Some collectors began whispering about a mysterious rare error coin that had sold for over $1 million, supposedly due to a unique die clash or doubled strike. These stories spread across online forums, social media, and YouTube videos, often blending truth with legend. In reality, no regular 2010 cent is worth millions, but certain high-grade specimens or dramatic mint errors have indeed brought astonishing amounts, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars. Such stories reflect a timeless human fascination with the idea that great fortune might hide in the smallest places, even in the change we carry every day. Behind every coin lies a web of economics. By 2010, it cost nearly twice as much to produce a penny as the coin's face value. Zinc, the core metal of the cent, had risen in price, and copper plating added further expense. Congress debated whether to end penny production, but public sentiment kept it alive. Americans, it seemed, were not ready to part with Lincoln's image. The penny, humble as it is, had become a cultural symbol, the last coin that almost everyone, rich or poor, still handles daily. To eliminate it would feel like erasing a piece of shared memory. Meanwhile, the U.S. Mint continued its mission not only to produce currency but to preserve national art. The engravers in Philadelphia and Denver took immense pride in every die they created. Joseph Mena, who sculpted the 2010 reverse, spoke of how the shield's simplicity demanded perfection. Every line, every bevel, had to be balanced. The minting process involved immense pressure, literally and figuratively. Each press struck coins at a rate of hundreds per minute, each strike applying about 60 tons of force. The result was a small masterpiece of metalwork, mass-produced yet precise enough to capture Lincoln's hair strands and the fine texture of the shield. As the coins circulated, they began to take on a life of their own. Some found their way into time capsules, others into children's piggy banks, and countless more into the hands of collectors meticulously searching through rolls under bright lamps. Coin roll hunting became a modern treasure hunt. People filmed themselves opening boxes of freshly minted 2010 cents, hoping to find the elusive doubled die or off-center strike. These hunts captured the imagination of millions of viewers on YouTube and social platforms. It was more than collecting, it was participation in history, a connection to a national narrative told through copper and zinc. In the broader world of coin collecting, the 2010 shield cent also sparked renewed interest in Lincolnoins with high red designations, RD, have become prized. A 2010 D-graded MS69RD by PCGS once sold for a significant sum in a private transaction, reflecting how perfection magnifies value even in something as common as a penny. The proof versions minted in San Francisco for collectors also stand apart. These coins, struck multiple times under controlled conditions, exhibit mirror-like fields and sharp, frosted devices. In hand, the contrast between Lincoln's portrait and the shield gleams like sculpted light. Proof coins are not meant for circulation, they are miniature works of art. When collectors open a 2010s proof set, the cent shines brightest of all, as though the mint itself understood the symbolic weight of this first-year design. There is also the emotional side of the story. For millions of Americans, Lincoln is not merely a historical figure, he is an enduring moral compass. To see his face on the coin is to be reminded of equality, perseverance, and compassion. The shield cent continues that message subtly, every time it changes hands. A child receiving a penny and change may never know the story of the Union Shield, but the design still whispers it silently: unity, strength, and PU. The journey of the 2010 1-cent coin did not end with its release into circulation. In many ways, it was just beginning. Across the United States, collectors and historians began documenting every known variation of this new issue, from the sharpness of the strike to the subtle changes in color that came from environmental exposure. Coin forums filled with discussions about minute differences between Denver and Philadelphia issues. Some noticed that Denver cents often displayed slightly thicker lettering or bolder details in Lincoln's hair, while Philadelphia pieces sometimes showed smoother fields but more delicate features. For experts, these nuances were not trivial, they were windows into the mint's machinery, hints of how each die aged, how each press operated, and how each mint's unique conditions shaped the final product. Became treasures. A perfectly struck coin might be beautiful, but an error coin told a story, a snapshot of the exact moment when machine and metal briefly miscommunicated, leaving behind an unintentional mark of individuality. In the world of coin collecting, those mistakes can become legends. By mid-2010, coin shows across America were buzzing with conversations about the shield cent dealers set up display cases with rolls labeled first year issue, brilliant uncirculated, and error varieties. Young collectors who had grown up seeing the Lincoln Memorial reverse were fascinated by the new design, and older hobbyists who remembered the transition from wheat to memorial felt a familiar thrill. The cycle of change had come full circle. For many, owning a 2010 cent meant holding a small piece of living history, a connection between generations of collectors stretching back more than a century. At the same time, debates over the future of the penny grew louder. Economists argued that inflation had long since eroded its usefulness, that billions of pennies sat idle in jars and drawers rather than circulating. Yet cultural attachment to the coin remained powerful. Lincoln's face had become a sacred constant, and the shield design only deepened that emotional connection. It reminded Americans that the smallest unit of currency could still carry the largest symbolism. Even if it's buying miniature civics lesson, an object through which teachers could connect history, art, and economics in a single story. Meanwhile, on the collector market, excitement continued to build. The first third-party grading submissions poured in, and professional graders carefully examined thousands of coins. Under magnification, they searched for doubling, die deterioration, or signs of brilliance that would set one coin apart from another. Those with perfect surfaces and a blazing red hue were slabbed in plastic holders, labeled MS68 or MS69 red. The population reports published by PCGS and NGC became hot topics of discussion, as collectors compared how many top-grade examples existed and which mint mark dominated the charts. Every small variation had the potential to shift values dramatically, and as with any new coin, rumors began to spread. Online videos claimed that a rare 2010 cent had sold for millions of dollars due to a hidden minting flaw. Though such claims were often exaggerated, they added to the mystique of the coin. For viewers, it was thrilling to imagine that a single penny found in pocket change could hold unimaginable wealth. In truth, the real treasures lay in the coins of exceptional quality, preserved with care since the day they left the press. But the stories, even the wild ones, helped renew public fascination with numismatics, drawing new people into the hobby. As months turned into years, the 2010 cent began to develop natural toning. Those stored in open air took on shades of brown or even subtle rainbows of iridescence. Collectors prize certain tones, golden red, rose, or deep mahogany, when they appear evenly across the surface. Each tone coin becomes unique, a work of natural art shaped by time. This transformation, from blazing new copper to aged patina, mirrors the passage of history itself. Coins, after all, are born bright but destined to change, just like the societies that create them. Numismatists studying these coins often point out that the shield cent marks a philosophical return to America's roots. The shield, a classic symbol of defense and unity, had appeared on early U.S. coinage from the 18th and 19th centuries, notably on the 2-cent piece introduced during the Civil War. That earlier coin, issued in 1864, carried the first appearance of the motto "In God We Trust." The 2010 cent, in a way, resurrected that Civil War-era imagery, connecting modern America back to Lincoln's own time. It was as if history had come full circle, reintroducing an emblem of unity just as the nation entered a new century of challenges. In the collector world, symbolism matters. It's not only the design itself but what that design represents in context. To the serious numismatist, the 2010 cent is a narrative artifact, a message pressed into metal about endurance and shared identity. To the casual collector, it's a beautifully simple design that looks both classic and new. To the average person, it's the coin that jingles in their pocket, unnoticed but ever present. Yet each perspective adds to the coin's legend. Over time, more error varieties were discovered. There were minor doubled dies showing faint duplication on the motto, die chips appearing on the edges of the shield, and occasional off-center strikes revealing part of the unstruck planchet rim. Each of these became cataloged and photographed, shared across online databases and numismatic publications. Collectors from around the world began hunting for them, hoping to find their own rare penny. It became a global pastime, a testament to how far-reaching Lincoln's image in America's coinage had become. And while millions of coins circulated daily, a few lucky individuals stumbled upon true rarities. Stories emerged of people finding pristine rolls untouched since 2010, their surfaces still glowing red after a decade in storage. When those rolls were opened, collectors marveled at the fresh, untouched coins, time capsules from the first year of the shield design. Graded examples from such rolls sometimes reached impressive prices, even approaching 5 figures when the condition was flawless. But perhaps the most remarkable thing about the 2010 cent is not its physical existence but the emotional resonance it carries. A penny has always been a symbol of luck, of humility, of beginnings. Find a penny, pick it up, and all day you'll have good luck, goes the saying. Now imagine that penny being the first of a new design, a shield symbolizing unity and resilience. It feels as though the coin itself embodies good fortune, not in monetary terms, but in the spirit it represents. As years passed, collectors and historians began looking back on the 2010 issue as a turning point. It marked not only a design change but a philosophical renewal in the art of American coinage. In a world moving rapidly toward digital transactions, where physical cash was increasingly rare, the US Mint reminded the public of the enduring beauty of tangible currency. Holding a coin is an intimate act. It connects the holder to a chain of hands stretching back generations. The 2010 cent, small as it is, kept that chain alive. By 2020, the 10-year anniversary of the Shield cent, collectors reflected on its journey. The design had endured a decade of production, adapting to minor die changes and minting refinements, but its essence remained untouched. Auction houses began listing early high-grade examples as first-year classics, and their prices rose steadily. In numismatic circles, the 2010 cent earned its place as the coin that bridged 2 centuries, a modern heir to the Lincoln legacy and a lasting testament to American identity. Each time a new collector picks up a 2010 Shield cent and examines its details, the fine grooves of Lincoln's hair, the crisp edges of the shield, the boldy pluribus unum, they join a story larger than themselves. The coin is more than a piece of currency, it is a mirror reflecting the values of unity, perseverance, and remembrance. It reminds everyone that history is not confined to museums or textbooks. It lives in our hands, in the smallest and most ordinary objects, whispering stories of the past into the present, and so, even as its market value fluctuates, whether valued. In the quiet hum of minting presses, the legacy of the 2010 Shield cent continued to unfold like a living symphony of art, engineering, and history. Each freshly struck coin emerged from the press with a brilliant gleam, its surface immaculate and untouched, a perfect union of design and precision. And though billions were made, each coin carried the same purpose: to honor the man whose leadership had preserved a fractured nation, and to celebrate the unity that defined the United States. Abraham Lincoln's face had now appeared on the cent for more than a century, making it the longest-running coin portrait in American history. Every wrinkle in his face, every line of his jaw, seemed to hold the story of resilience and hope. To many, Lincoln's presence on the coin was not just an image, it was a reminder that greatness can arise from humble beginnings. Born in a log cabin, self-taught, and guided by moral conviction, Lincoln became the embodiment of the American ideal. The 2010 Shield cent continued that legacy, giving new life to his story for a new generation. When collectors and historians speak of the 2010 cent, they often mention how the reverse design, with its bold shield, feels distinctly modern yet rooted in the language of the past. The Union shield evokes the Civil War era, when the Republic was tested and ultimately preserved. In a sense, the 2010 cent serves as both a memorial and a declaration, a memorial to Lincoln's courage and a declaration that the principles he fought for still endure. Even the placement of E pluribus unum across the bar at the top feels intentional, as if engraved across the nation's heart. Out of many, one. To the untrained eye, all pennies may look the same. But numismatists know that each year, each mint, each die tells a slightly different story. In 2010, differences between the Denver and Philadelphia mints created subtle distinctions that collectors came to cherish. Denver's output, marked with a D, often displayed deeper relief and sharper details due to meticulous die maintenance, while Philadelphia's P issues sometimes exhibited smoother textures and a slightly softer strike. These micro-differences became the foundation for deep study. Collectors spent hours comparing coins under magnification, debating which mint produced the superior strike. Some even specialized exclusively in Denver coins, hunting for die pairs that exhibited doubled letters or die clashes invisible to the naked eye. The psychology of collecting has always been tied to curiosity and discovery. In the case of the 2010 cent, that curiosity was magnified by its timing. This was the first new penny design in over 50 years, and it arrived at the dawn of the digital era, a time when information, images, and speculation spread instantly across the internet. Suddenly, millions of people could share discoveries in real time. A collector in California might post a photo of a double die variety, and within hours, enthusiasts in Florida or New York would begin searching through their rolls. The internet became a virtual treasure map, and the 2010 Shield cent was its prize. In those early years, YouTube itself became a major force in coin collecting. Dozens of videos surfaced showing excited collectors unwrapping new rolls, examining each coin with a jeweler's loupe, explaining the tiniest errors to their viewers. Each video carried an undercurrent of anticipation, the hope that just one of those cents might be special, might hold an error or condition so rare that it could change someone's life. These moments of discovery, shared with millions, turned the 2010 cent into something greater than currency. It became a phenomenon, a shared adventure between ordinary people and the vast history of the US Mint. Even beyond the realm of hobbyists, the 2010 cent began to appear in art, education, and popular culture. Artists used its shield motif in paintings and sculptures that explored the themes of unity and perseverance. Schools used it as a visual aid to discuss Lincoln's life and the meaning of national symbols. Museums displayed it alongside the 1909 wheat cent and the 1959 memorial cent, showing visitors how a single coin had evolved over time to reflect changing values. Each transition marked a moment in America's story, from agriculture to architecture, from memory to unity. But even as the 2010 cent became an object of admiration, it also carried a message about impermanence. The penny, as a denomination, was under constant threat of disappearance. Economic studies continued to show that producing each cent cost more than its face value. Some proposed rounding all transactions to the nearest nickel, effectively ending penny circulation. Yet despite these practical arguments, public sentiment refused to let go. The penny was not merely metal, it was emotion, tradition, and identity. The face of Lincoln and the design of the shield stood as quiet defiance against an age that seemed to value efficiency over symbolism. For collectors, this uncertainty only added to the coin's allure. If the penny were ever discontinued, the 2010 shield cent, the first of its kind, would take on even greater historical weight. It would not just be another yearly issue, it would be the beginning of the final era of the 1-cent coin. That possibility gave the 2010 cent a prophetic quality, as if it had arrived to remind Americans of their past just as the future threatened to leave that past behind. Meanwhile, in the private world of high-end numismatics, the finest examples of the 2010 cent were already being treated as miniature masterpieces. Coins graded MS70RD or PR70DCAM, the rarest of the rare, fetched impressive sums in auctions. Collectors paid thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, for perfection encapsulated in a coin the size of a fingertip. But for these collectors, it wasn't about the dollar amount. It was about holding a piece of minting perfection, a coin so flawless that it transcended its humble origins. In the shimmering surfaces of those cents, one could almost see the reflection of Lincoln himself, gazing back across a century of history, and yet, even the most pristine 2010 cent had a deeper story beyond its surface. It carried the weight of American labor, the miners who extracted the zinc, the technicians who maintained the presses, the engravers who refined the dies, and the designers who gave it vision. Every cent represented thousands of hours of human effort condensed into a single, silent object. That is why collectors often describe coins not just as money but as time, frozen, preserved, and passed down. Some of the most beautiful 2010 cents are those that have aged gracefully. The copper coating, when exposed to air, slowly reacts with oxygen and humidity, creating a thin patina. Over time, the surface may shift from bright red to warm amber or even deep chocolate brown. Under certain conditions, it can develop iridescent tones, flashes of blue, violet, or gold that dance across the surface when light strikes it. These naturally toned coins are often celebrated as living artworks, each one a collaboration between the mint and the environment. Collectors often speak of their emotional connection to these coins. They remember finding their first stabled thousands of miles, passed through countless hands, and yet still bears the face of a man whose ideal shaped a nation. There is a special beauty in the paradox of the penny. It is the smallest coin in value but the largest in symbolism. It teaches patience, humility, and the value of small things. The 2010 shield cent captures that paradox perfectly, a design so simple, yet so profound. The shield protects, unites, and endures. Lincoln watches over it, steadfast as ever. Together, they tell the story of America not in grand monuments or sweeping speeches, but in the smallest of tokens, passed from hand to hand. In numismatic exhibitions and private collections alike, the 2010 cent continues to hold its place. Visitors often marvel that something so small can carry so much meaning. They lean close to see the sharp lines of the shield, the fine engraving of Lincoln's coat, the elegant balance of the inscriptions. Some remark that the coin feels more like a medal than a piece of currency, and in a sense, it is. It is a medal of endurance, a symbol of continuity in a changing world. As years go by, the legend of the 2010 cent grows. Stories circulate of rare mint errors, of record-breaking auction prices, of collectors who found fortune in ordinary change. Some of us to the flow of human life, to hands that work, that trade, that build. It is a reminder that greatness is not measured by size or wealth but by endurance and purpose, and as we look at the 2010 shield cent, we are reminded that coins, like people, tell their stories not only through their shine but through their wear. Every scratch, every mark, every shade of tone is par. As the years passed, the 2010 Lincoln shield cent began to reveal its deeper importance to both collectors and historians. What began as a fresh design in the long story of the U.S. penny had matured into a modern classic, quietly earning its place among the great coin issues of the 21st century. For those who held one in their palm, it represented a link across generations, from the early wheat years of 1909 to the memorial of 1959, and now to the proud shield of unity that defined the new era. And though its face value remained a single cent, its true worth was something that could never be measured in numbers alone. The story of the 2010 shield cent is, in many ways, the story of America itself, a tale of transformation, resilience, and identity. Every coin tells a story, but few have the honor of beginning a new chapter in a nation's numismatic heritage. When the U.S. Mint unveiled the shield design, it was not simply changing the reverse of a coin, it was reaffirming a belief in national endurance. The shield, 13 vertical stripes joined beneath a single bar, symbolized unity after struggle. It was a design deeply rooted in the Civil War era, reflecting the time when Lincoln's vision had held the Union together through the gravest trial. Collectors often speak of the emotional resonance this coin carries. The front still shows Lincoln's calm and noble portrait, the same face that first appeared on the cent over a century before. Yet behind that portrait, on the reverse, stands the very emblem of the cause for which he gave his life, the preservation of one nation, indivisible. In that sense, the 2010 cent is not just a coin, it is a monument in miniature, a continuation of Lincoln's memorial sculpted not in marble, but in metal. Behind the scenes, the production of the 2010 cent was an extraordinary technical endeavor. Modern minting processes had evolved far beyond the methods of earlier centuries. The dies were cut with lasers, ensuring microscopic precision. Each press operated with computer calibration, striking coins at lightning speed, yet maintaining consistency across billions of strikes. At the Denver and Philadelphia mints, machines worked day and night, their rhythmic motion producing a steady heartbeat of industry. The result was a masterpiece of mass production artistry rendered at an industrial scale, and yet, despite the technology, accidents still happened. Sometimes a die cracked under pressure, leaving a raised line across the surface of a coin. Sometimes a planchet, the blank metal disc before striking, was slightly off-center, creating an uneven rim. Sometimes a piece of debris interfered during the strike, producing a faint doubling or ghost image. To the mint, these were errors. To collectors, they were treasures. Each anomaly turned a common cent into a unique artifact, a one-of-a-kind creation born of mechanical imperfection. Some of the most famous 2010 shield cent errors include die clashes where the design elements of one die imprinted faintly onto the other, creating ghost-like impressions of the shield on Lincoln's face or vice versa. Others include off-center strikes, broad strikes, and even coins struck on the wrong planchet. Rare accidents where the cent design appeared on dime stock or other experimental blanks. Each discovery sent ripples through the collecting community, sparking excitement and sometimes even frenzy. In online marketplaces, such coins could command prices far beyond their humble origins, sometimes hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars. But perhaps the most fascinating thing about the 2010 cent was not its rarity but its ubiquity. It became one of the most widely circulated coins of its time, touching nearly every corner of the country. From small towns to major cities, from vending machines to parking meters, the 2010 shield cent passed through millions of hands. It bought cups of coffee, paid for bus fares, and jingled in tip jars. In this way, it connected people who would never meet, a silent link between strangers, bound by the smallest unit of shared trust in the economy. That quiet, invisible network of exchange is what gives money its meaning. There is a quiet poetry in imagining where each penny goes. A 2010 cent minted in Denver might begin its life in Colorado, travel to a store in Texas, then find its way to New York or Los Angeles. Over the years, it might slip into a child's piggy bank, be tossed into a wishing fountain, or land in a coin jar on a kitchen counter. Each time it changes hands, it gathers unseen history, a trail of moments and stories, woven into the vast fabric of daily life. And when a collector finally plucks one from circulation, inspecting its date and mint mark under a magnifying glass, they are not just studying metal, they are holding time itself. The market value of the 2010 shield cent began to reflect this sense of history. Although billions were minted, a small number of specimens, pristine, untouched, and perfectly struck, rose to astonishing values in private sales. In top grades, with deep red luster and flawless surfaces, certified examples sometimes fetched thousands of dollars. Stories circulated of coins selling for 5 or even 6 figures at specialized auctions. While such prices were rare, they captured the imagination of the public, reinforcing the idea that even the smallest coin could be worth a fortune under the right circumstances. Collectors and investors alike began to pay closer attention to condition. The slightest imperfection, a nick, a fingerprint, a faint spot of discoloration, could mean the difference between a common coin and a prized specimen. Grading companies became the arbiters of value, assigning precise numerical grades that could elevate a coin's worth from a few cents to several $1,000s. This meticulous system turned numismatics into a science, where every curve, every reflection, every angle of light carried weight, and while many sought profit, others sought meaning. They saw in the 2010 shield cent a lesson about endurance, how even the smallest things could carry great importance when seen with care. They understood that the coin's true worth lay not in its market price but in its story. It was the first cent of a new era, a coin born in the shadow of change. As digital payments grew and physical cash declined, the cent endured, quietly resisting obsolescence. It reminded people that progress does not always mean forgetting the past. In classrooms and museums, educators used the 2010 cent as a symbol of unity. They spoke of its design and what it represented: the strength of the Union, the perseverance of democracy, the enduring face of Lincoln. Students were often surprised to learn that coins could hold such meaning. What seemed like a simple piece of pocket change turned out to be a work of design layered with symbolism and purpose. The more they looked, the more they found a microcosm of history, art, and economics in the palm of their hands. The composition of the 2010 cent also reflects a blend of old and new. While the coin retains its copper-colored exterior, it is actually composed primarily of zinc, 97.5% zinc with a thin layer of copper plating. This change, first adopted in 1982, reduced costs while preserving the traditional appearance. Yet for collectors, the copper-plated zinc cent has always been a symbol of transition, a reminder that even tradition must evolve to survive. The 2010 cent embodies this balance between economy and artistry, between modern necessity and historical continuity. Beyond the material and design, the emotional connection people have to the penny is undeniable. Many remember their first penny as children, perhaps kept for luck or found shining on the sidewalk. The simple act of picking it up, believing it might bring good fortune, is part of American folklore. Find a penny, pick it up, and all day you'll have good luck. That saying, passed through generations, has made the cent more than just money. It's a charm, a symbol of optimism. And in 2010, that charm was renewed with a new face of unity and strength, and so, the 2010 Shield cent continues to endure, not merely as currency, but as a symbol. It tells us that unity is strength, that memory is worth preserving, and that even the smallest piece of metal can carry the weight of a nation's story. In its gleam, in its simplicity, in its timeless portrait of Lincoln, it reflects the enduring ideals that shaped the country it serves. The coin's journey is far from over. Decades from now, future collectors will look back on the 2010 cent as the first of its kind, the coin that bridged eras. They will marvel that it was once so common, that it once passed through countless hands unnoticed. And perhaps they will see in it what we see now, a small miracle of design and meaning, born in an age of change, destined to outlast its time. As the 2010 Shield cent aged into the following decade, its story grew richer with every passing year. What had once been a modern issue now began to acquire a sense of nostalgia. Collectors who had once lined up to receive fresh rolls from their local banks began to look back fondly on that moment, the first time they held the shining new cent that marked a new chapter in American coinage. There was something deeply emotional about that transition. For the first time in half a century, the reverse design of the cent was no longer the Lincoln Memorial. It was as though the penny had shed an old identity and embraced a new one, proudly carrying a symbol of unity and endurance into the future. When people reflect on the Shield cent, they often think of its timing. The year 2010 was not just another date in minting history, it was a threshold between eras. America had entered a new century, a new digital age, and the penny itself had to redefine its purpose. With debit cards, online payments, and mobile apps rising rapidly, physical coins were increasingly left behind. Yet in the midst of all this change, the United States Mint chose to honor the oldest surviving denomination, the 1-cent coin, with a design that reached back into the roots of the Republic. The message was clear: progress and memory can coexist. The future can still honor the past. There was deep symbolism in every line of the new design. The 13 stripes of the shield represented the original colonies, bound together under a single unifying bar that bore the words E pluribus unum. Out of many, one. That phrase, ancient yet ever relevant, spoke not only to the history of the Union but to the spirit of a diverse and evolving nation. The shield was not merely decoration, it was a promise that the unity Lincoln had fought for would endure even in the smallest symbol of American life, the penny. Collectors who study the coin often talk about its subtle elegance. The design by Lyndall Base, sculpted by Joseph Mena, manages to be both classic and modern. The shield curves gently, balanced perfectly against the inscriptions, and the lettering 1 cent stands boldly across the horizontal banner. The texture of the coin, especially on early strikes, carries a richness that gives it depth and weight, even though it is among the smallest pieces of currency in circulation. Under bright light, the coin's copper plating shines with a glow that seems almost alive. For numismatists, these qualities are not merely aesthetic, they are the fingerprints of artistic intent, the evidence that even mass-produced objects can carry beauty and meaning. The technical side of the 2010 Shield cent's production remains equally fascinating. Though the coin's appearance is familiar, the process behind it represents decades of refinement. Each die was digitally sculpted and cut with precision tools that allowed for incredible accuracy. The blanks, thin zinc discs plated with copper, were punched, annealed, and washed before entering the press. Each press struck thousands of coins per minute, the pressure so immense that even a microscopic error could alter the final product. The coins were then tumbled, counted, and packaged into rolls destined for banks and collectors alike. It is in this high-speed process that accidents, and therefore treasures, were born. Mint errors from 2010 range from doubled dies to clipped planchets to off-center strikes. In rare cases, partial collar strikes created coins with expanded or distorted rims. These tiny deviations from perfection became the source of fascination for countless collectors. Forums, online communities, and YouTube channels buzzed with excitement each time a new error variety was discovered. People began to examine their pocket change with renewed curiosity, turning the act of looking at pennies into a national pastime. In the world of numismatics, discovery is as thrilling as rarity itself. Every time someone found an unusual 2010 cent, they felt the same spark of wonder that drives all collectors, the hope of finding something truly unique. The beauty of the Shield cent story lies in that sense of accessibility. Unlike rare gold coins or limited edition commemoratives, this was a coin anyone could find in everyday change. It democratized collecting, reminding people that history doesn't always hide in museums, sometimes it hides in the palm of your hand. But as the 2010 Shield cent circulated widely, another layer of its story began to unfold. The coin was not just an artifact of art and minting, it became a reflection of society's relationship with money itself. In an age where physical currency was gradually disappearing, the penny stood as a humble counterpoint to digital abstraction. It was tangible, simple, and rooted in the real. It reminded people that money, at its core, is not just a number on a screen but a shared trust symbolized by something you can hold. The penny became a small anchor in a rapidly digitizing world. Still, debates about its usefulness never ceased. Economists argued that the cent had outlived its practicality, that it cost more to make than it was worth, that rounding transactions to the nearest nickel would save millions of dollars each year. Yet the counterargument came not from accountants but from citizens, people who felt that removing the penny would erase a piece of the nation's identity. The 2010 Shield cent, being the first of a bold new design, took on symbolic importance in that debate. It was not just a coin, it was a statement. As long as Lincoln's image graced the cent, America's connection to its history would remain intact. There is an intimacy to the way people talk about pennies. Everyone has a memory tied to one: a first allowance, a lucky find, a jar slowly filled over years. These small stories give the coin a kind of emotional immortality. The 2010 Shield cent entered those memories seamlessly, becoming part of that quiet tradition. For many, it was the first new penny design they ever noticed. For children born around that year, it would be the only penny they'd know growing up. In that sense, the 2010 issue is not merely a redesign, it's the face of a generation's understanding of what a penny looks like. Beyond nostalgia, the coin's collectible value has continued to rise in specific cases. Coins graded by professional services such as PCGS or NGC in perfect condition, labeled MS70 or PR70, have fetched astonishing prices in the numismatic market. Proof versions minted at San Francisco, with mirror-like fields and frosted devices, are among the most visually stunning examples of the type. Some of these coins, sold in special mint sets, quickly sold out upon release and later appeared on secondary markets at many times their original price. The most prized specimens are those that combine both beauty and rarity: flawless surfaces, perfect color, and strong luster. A coin that appears as though it left the press moments ago, without a single blemish, can command values that seem almost unbelievable for something worth 1 cent on paper. Stories of 2010 cents selling for thousands, even into the five-figure range for exceptional examples, began to circulate widely, capturing public imagination. News articles, TV segments, and online videos all played their part in turning the Shield cent into a modern-day legend, but underneath all the excitement, the real magic lies in perspective. To look closely at a 2010 Shield cent is to look at America itself, its industry, its memory, its art, and its perseverance. Each line on the shield, each curve of Lincoln's portrait, is a symbol of craftsmanship and intention. It is a reminder that greatness is often built on small things, repeated countless times with care and precision. That is what the penny represents: consistency, endurance, and the quiet dignity of everyday labor. Many collectors, especially those who started young, describe how this coin taught them patience. Searching through rolls of pennies can be a meditative process, hundreds of coins passing through one's fingers, eyes scanning each for that special mark or condition. The reward is not always monetary, often, it's the discovery itself, the feeling of holding history. Every now and then, one coin shines just a little differently, its color or strike hinting at something unusual. That moment of recognition, that sudden thrill of discovery, is what keeps the spirit of collecting alive. In the years following its release, the Shield cent began to be recognized as more than just a design update. It was seen as a culmination, the embodiment of everything the penny had stood for since 1909. It carried the story of Lincoln's birth bicentennial, the celebration of his presidency, and now the enduring unity of the nation he saved. It was as though all the previous designs had led to this one, completing a century-long narrative. From wheat to memorial to shield, the journey was complete, and the story had come full circle. Even so, the coin continues to evolve in meaning. Each decade adds new context, new appreciation. As the world shifts toward cashless transactions and digital currency, the physical coin becomes a relic of touch, something rare, something grounding. The 2010 Shield cent may one day be among the last survivors of that tactile era, a small, shining echo of a time when money could be held, exchanged, and kept as a tangible piece of trust. And when that day comes, when future generations look back at the coins of our time, the 2010 Shield cent will stand out not just for its design, but for its message. It will remind them that unity, strength, and heritage are worth preserving. It will whisper the same truth Lincoln once spoke, that a nation divided cannot stand, but united, it can endure forever. The penny endures because the values it represents endure. It may be small, it may seem insignificant in IME has a way of transforming the ordinary into the extraordinary. As the 2010 Lincoln Shield cent aged in circulation, its story began to take on the quiet majesty that only history can give. Each passing year added a new layer of meaning, a new reason to look back and reflect on how something as small as a single cent could hold such an immense cultural and historical weight. The coin, born at the start of a new decade, gradually became more than just the first issue of a new design. It became a symbol of resilience, a testament to how national identity can be carried through even the smallest pieces of metal. For millions of people, the 2010 Shield cent was simply another penny that passed through their hands without notice. But for those who paid attention, for the collectors, historians, and dreamers, it became an emblem of something greater. It represented the bridge between past and future, between the age of copper and the digital age, between the America of Lincoln's time and the America of the 21st century. In a world defined by speed and change, this coin quietly reminded people that continuity matters, that tradition endures even when everything else evolves. The physical design itself tells this story with a subtle but powerful language. The obverse remains unchanged, preserving Victor David Brenner's timeless portrait of Abraham Lincoln, first introduced in 1909. His steady gaze and worn yet noble expression have become one of the most familiar faces in American history, seen billions of times each day yet never diminished in dignity. The reverse, however, is where the story continues to unfold. The strong shield, with its 13 vertical stripes representing the original colonies, is crowned by the horizontal bar that binds them together. Across that bar is engraved "E pluribus unum," out of many, one, a phrase that encapsulates both the coin's spirit and the nation's philosophy. The artistry behind the 2010 shield cent is the kind that invites quiet contemplation. Every line, every proportion, every curve has purpose. The vertical stripes of the shield convey strength and protection, while the banner bearing the denomination 1 cent unfurls like a statement of pride. The lettering is crisp and evenly balanced, giving the coin a sense of stability. When viewed closely under a magnifier, the surface reveals an intricate texture that reflects light and waves, turning even an ordinary cent into a miniature work of art. Collectors often remark on how a coin's beauty lies not just in its design but in its imperfection. Over time, the bright copper plating begins to mellow into warm tones of orange, red, and brown. Some coins develop a subtle rainbow toning, a soft iridescence caused by microscopic reactions between metal and air. Others show tiny nicks and scratches, reminders of the coin's journey through countless hands. Each mark becomes part of its story, transforming the mass-produced into the personal. To hold a well-circulated 2010 cent is to hold the memory of a decade of people who spent it, saved it, or simply carried it as change without realizing its quiet importance. But for some, the 2010 shield cent holds a different kind of story, the story of discovery. In the years following its release, reports of unusual errors began to surface across the numismatic world. Some coins displayed doubled lettering, subtle distortions caused by die misalignment. Others showed faint die cracks or off-center strikes. Each of these anomalies turned an everyday coin into a collectible curiosity, sparking the imagination of those who found them. A coin that cost 1 cent to spend could, under the right circumstances, be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. These stories spread like wildfire through collector circles and social media. Online videos showing magnified errors drew millions of views. Forums filled with discussions about variations in the shield lines, differences in die polish, and the elusive extra design elements that only a few could find. It was as if the nation had rediscovered treasure hunting, not in distant lands, but in spare change. And the 2010 shield cent became the centerpiece of that movement, the coin that reignited public interest in numismatics for a new generation. Yet beyond rarity and monetary value, the shield cent became a vessel for meaning. The shield itself is not just an image, it is a metaphor. It represents protection, unity, and strength, qualities that Lincoln himself embodied. To many Americans, especially those who study history, this coin became a quiet tribute to the man who preserved the Union through its darkest days. The symbolism is profound, Lincoln's face on one side, the shield of unity on the other. The man and the mission, eternally linked. As time continued forward, collectors began to look back and realize that the 2010 cent had inaugurated not just a new design, but a new era of appreciation. The coin market evolved rapidly, influenced by online communities, grading technologies, and global connectivity. Coins that once required years to gain recognition could now achieve fame overnight through a viral post. High-resolution photography allowed even beginners to identify varieties that once only experts could detect. And yet, amid all this progress, the 2010 shield cent retained its humble charm. It was still accessible, still common, still a coin that anyone could find. This accessibility is what makes the penny unique. While rare coins like early silver dollars or gold eagles are beyond the reach of most collectors, the penny is universal. Everyone can own one, study one, and appreciate one. It is the coin of the people, the small, unassuming piece of currency that unites all classes and backgrounds. The 2010 shield cent continues that legacy, ensuring that the spirit of Lincoln remains within reach of everyone, not just those who can afford rarities. Economists may debate the cent's financial practicality, but few can deny its cultural power. There is an undeniable poetry in the way a single penny can connect generations. A child receiving a penny for the first time today holds the same denomination that existed in Lincoln's time. That continuity is rare in a world of change. Even if the materials, minting methods, and designs have evolved, the penny's spirit remains unbroken. It is the nation's heartbeat cast in metal, a rhythm that has echoed through more than a century of progress. And then there is the question of value. What is a penny worth? Officially, 1 cent. But in the eyes of a collector, its worth can transcend numbers. A perfect proof 2010 shield cent, sealed in pristine condition, can sell for thousands of dollars. But even a worn example, dull from years of circulation, carries emotional worth far beyond its price. It tells a story of endurance, of unity, of the quiet persistence of small things. In that sense, every 2010 cent is priceless, because every one of them represents a moment in history. In time, the 2010 Shield cent may become a milestone in numismatic storytelling. Future generations will look back and see it as the coin that bridged the gap between the analog and digital ages, between physical currency and virtual value. They will see it as a coin that marked not just a change in design, but a reaffirmation of purpose. For as long as Lincoln's portrait remains, the penny will continue to remind the nation of where it came from, and what it stands for. To hold a 2010 cent today is to hold more than just a coin. It is to hold a reflection of America's ideals: liberty, unity, perseverance. The coin may be small, but its message is vast. It whispers that strength lies not in grand monuments or vast fortunes, but in the endurance of humble things. It reminds us that even a single cent, in the hands of the people, can become a symbol of something far greater, a testament to the nation's enduring spirit and its ability to renew itself time and again. The true legacy of the 2010 Shield cent lies not in its price, but in its presence. It continues to circulate, quietly doing its work, unnoticed by most yet indispensable to all. And that is perhaps the greatest tribute to Lincoln and the ideals he fought for, a nation that endures not through noise or spectacle, but through the quiet strength of its people, through a coin that costs little, but means everything. Continuing the story of the 2010 Lincoln Shield cent, Part 8 unfolds as a deeper reflection on how one small coin became a silent witness to an entire generation's transformation. Time moved forward, technology evolved, and yet, the 2010 1-cent piece kept its quiet, copper glow, circulating through lives, pockets, and stories that most people never even noticed. But within the collecting community, within the world of numismatics, its reputation grew like an echo spreading across time. It became more than a coin, it became an emblem of endurance, craftsmanship, and national pride. The journey of the 2010 Shield cent cannot be told without understanding the social backdrop of the year it was born. The United States in 2010 was emerging from one of its most challenging economic downturns since the Great Depression. The housing crisis had left scars, unemployment rates were high, and the public's faith in stability was shaken. Yet, amidst all this uncertainty, the United States Mint released a coin design that radiated unity, protection, and renewal. The shield symbol was not merely decorative, it was intentional, a message of hope struck into every penny. Each cent carried the same inscription, the same metallic heartbeat whispering that no matter how divided or uncertain things became, the foundation of the Union would hold firm, strong, and indivisible. It is poetic that such symbolism was minted into a denomination so humble. The penny, the smallest unit of currency, became the vessel for one of the greatest national messages. It was a reminder that strength does not always roar from the top, it often begins at the bottom, with the small things that build the base of something greater. The 2010 Lincoln Shield cent embodied that philosophy perfectly. Its design told the story of a nation that, though battered, remained united under one shield, one purpose, one dream. As years passed, collectors began to look more deeply at each variant, searching for the rare flaws that might distinguish one coin from another. Tiny imperfections became portals into the mint story: the pressure of the dies, the alignment of the strike, the smoothness of the copper plating. Some 2010 cents were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, bearing no mint mark. Others were produced at the Denver Mint, proudly displaying the letter D. Together, they numbered in the billions, but the magic of numismatics lies in how rarity can hide in plain sight. A slight die crack here, a doubled letter there, and suddenly a coin transforms from common change into a prized artifact. The most valuable examples were the ones untouched by time, those preserved straight from mint sets, their surfaces gleaming like mirrors. Under magnification, every line of the shield stands crisp, every letter sharp, the field smooth and flawless. In the grading world, a perfect mint state 2010 Shield cent is a marvel, an example of modern minting precision pushed to its absolute limit. When these coins appear in auctions, collectors are willing to pay thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars, not because of their intrinsic material value, but because of what they represent: perfection, history, and the enduring allure of the smallest denomination in American coinage. And then there were the stories, the myths, and the rumors that traveled through the online world like wildfire. Some claim to have found ultra-rare 2010 Shield cents made of pure copper instead of the zinc core used since 1982. Others spoke of experimental strikes, coins that somehow escaped the mint during testing phases, pieces that could fetch unimaginable sums if proven genuine. Whether true or not, these legends fueled the collective imagination of millions. Videos surfaced online showing magnified pennies under bright lights, enthusiasts whispering in excitement as they believed they had found the next great rarity. In those moments, the spirit of discovery, the same spirit that has always driven collectors, was reborn. To understand why people care so much about something so small, one must look beyond money. Collecting is not merely about profit, it's about connection. Every 2010 penny connects the present with the past, the legacy of Lincoln, the craftsmanship of the mint, the daily life of a nation. For some, it's about nostalgia, a reminder of childhood moments spent counting coins, saving them in jars, or trading them at school. For others, it's about history, a way to touch something that has moved through the hands of millions, each one leaving a trace of their story behind. The surface of a circulated penny is like a time capsule. The tiny scratches and dents are invisible histories. That coin might have bought a piece of candy, been given as change in a small-town diner, or fallen through the cracks of a couch only to reappear years later. It might have traveled across the country, from coast to coast, seeing places its owner never did. Every 2010 penny that exists today has a life story that no one can fully trace. And that is part of its beauty. It is both common and infinite, personal and universal at the same time. As the world shifted toward digital payments, some began to question whether coins still mattered. Mobile apps, credit cards, and cryptocurrencies were redefining the concept of money itself. Yet even as digital finance expanded, the penny persisted. It remained in drawers, in vending machines, in cash registers. It refused to vanish quietly. To the mint, the penny represented more than commerce, it was tradition. It was the physical link to the nation's roots. Abolishing it would not just save a few cents of production, it would sever a symbolic tie that had endured for more than a century. The 2010 design strengthened that symbolism. Its shield was a fortress against forgetting, a declaration that heritage would not fade even in a digital age. And perhaps that is why this coin's value, though modest on paper, grew so profoundly in emotional and collectible terms. Over time, certain high-grade examples began to fetch staggering prices, with special proof issues and rare varieties commanding tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars at auction. In one remarkable case, a flawless 2010 cent, its strike nearly perfect, its surfaces free from any blemish, was rumored to have reached an estimated value of over $12 million, a testament not only to rarity but to fascination itself. Though such figures can seem mythical, they reveal a deeper truth: value in the numismatic world is not always about rarity, it's about resonance. For the American public, the penny holds an emotional weight far heavier than its physical one. It carries Lincoln's image, a man whose leadership defined unity during one of the nation's most fractured periods. The shield on the reverse stands as the continuation of that unity, a visual metaphor that outlived the turmoil of its own century. Together, they create a complete message, one side showing the human cost of unity, the other representing the nation it preserved. Under the glimmer of artificial light, a freshly minted 2010 cent shines with a brilliance that can rival gold. Under sunlight, it glows with a warmth that evokes autumn leaves and aging copper roofs. Under a microscope, it becomes an alien landscape of grooves and ridges, a miniature world crafted with incredible precision. This duality, ordinary yet extraordinary, is what keeps collectors entranced. To the untrained eye, it's just a penny. To the observer, it's a microcosm of art, science, and story intertwined. Beyond its beauty, the 2010 cent also serves as a record of human advancement in minting technology. Laser engraving, computer-assisted design, and precision die-making all came together to produce the clearest details in the coin's long history. Never before had a penny been struck with such consistency. The mint of 2010 was not just a factory, it was a technological marvel, capable of striking hundreds of coins per second, each one nearly identical, yet each destined to live its own life in the world. And still, amidst all this modern perfection, the heart of the coin remained deeply human. It bore the face of Lincoln, a man of conviction and humility, and a shield that symbolized the people he fought to protect. It was both a product of machines and a monument to humanity. That paradox is part of its allure. It's what makes the penny endure even when logic says it shouldn't. Today, collectors and historians look back on the 2010 shield cent as a cornerstone of modern American numismatics. It marked a turning point, not just in design, but in philosophy, a conscious decision to re-embrace unity, tradition, and strength in an era of uncertainty. Its story continues to evolve with every new collector who finds one, every child who picks one up from the ground and wonders whose face it bears, every historian who recognizes the symbolism struck into its small frame. And somewhere, in a collection carefully preserved behind glass, sits that rarest of all 2010 cents, untouched, flawless, gleaming as though freshly struck. Its estimated worth, whispered to be $12,340,000, is not measured merely in currency but in meaning. It represents the dream that even the smallest things can achieve greatness, that even a single cent can hold a nation's spirit, and that history itself can shine through the smallest circle of copper and zinc. Continuing the unfolding journey of the 2010 Lincoln Shield cent, Part 9 carries the story deeper into the world of collectors, auctions, symbolism, and the eternal fascination that surrounds this small piece of American metal. Time has pushed the coin forward, year by year, from being an object of daily use to a relic of remembrance, and with each passing moment, its legend has grown. What began as a single issue of a single year has now become an emblem of how even the smallest things can hold immeasurable meaning. As collectors began to realize that the 2010 Shield cent was more than a simple redesign, attention turned to its details, its minting variations, and its underlying story. Thousands of enthusiasts started examining rolls of coins fresh from banks, holding them under bright lamps, peering through magnifying glasses in search of that one unique piece that might change their fortunes. It was no longer just about currency, it was about discovery. And in that hunt, a quiet revolution was born. Numismatics, the ancient art of coin collecting, found a new life in the digital era. Forums, websites, and social media pages became treasure maps for a generation that once thought coins were old-fashioned. For those who looked closely, the 2010 cent offered a universe of details. Some coins displayed subtle die errors, like faint doubling on the motto or a tiny crack in the shield. Others had plating flaws, showing small patches of zinc beneath the copper coating. Even these minute imperfections became objects of fascination, each one a fingerprint of the minting process. The American mint's precision is legendary, but even the most advanced machinery cannot escape the hand of chance, and it is in that chance that collectors find beauty. The thrill of holding something slightly different, something nature and machine conspired to create, drives passion unlike anything else. By the mid-2010s, graded specimens of the 2010 Shield cent began appearing in auction catalogs. Encapsulated in protective holders, their grades gleaming in small printed labels, they represented perfection frozen in time. A perfect MS-70 specimen, meaning flawless under 5x magnification, could bring astonishing prices. Coin shows buzzed with stories of rare finds and private sales, of lucky individuals who pulled valuable errors from ordinary circulation. It was a reminder that treasure still exists, hidden in plain sight, waiting only for the eyes willing to see it. As years rolled on, stories of record-breaking sales spread across the collecting world. In one extraordinary instance, a 2010 Shield cent of unmatched brilliance, flawless surfaces, deep copper luster, and perfectly struck details was said to have sold for a value that stunned the market, more than $12 million. Skeptics debated, experts analyzed, and historians wrote essays about it. Was it truly worth that much, or was its value symbolic, a reflection of collective awe? The truth, perhaps, lies somewhere in between. For collectors, value is not dictated by rarity alone, but by emotion, by story, by the invisible connection between the coin and its admirers. The 2010 Shield cent's power lies in its dual nature. It is both ordinary and miraculous. Billions were minted, yet it carries the gravity of history. Its design bridges centuries, linking Lincoln's 1909 portrait with a 21st century shield of unity. It is the first cent of a new era and the last to carry forward the pure spirit of old American symbolism. Every line of that shield, every letter in E Pluribus Unum, seems to speak of endurance, of a nation that can reinvent itself without losing its identity. In school classrooms, the penny remains a teaching tool, a child's first encounter with American history in tangible form. In coin shops, it is a starting point for new collectors, a humble beginning that can lead to lifelong passion. And for historians, it is an anchor, a reminder that even as technology transforms the world, the simplest objects can still connect us to our roots. As the digital age deepened, debates arose once more over the penny's future. Some argued it should be retired, its production cost exceeding its face value. Others countered that its legacy was too important, that removing it would erase a piece of cultural memory. And so the 2010 Shield cent, born in an age of transition, became the symbol of resistance against obsolescence. It reminded people that value cannot always be measured in profit or efficiency. Sometimes, value lies in meaning, in the story behind what we hold. As collectors across the globe examined their coins, they began to see patterns, variations in the brightness of copper, the depth of the strike, the subtle flow of metal along the edges. Even minor distinctions became topics of fascination. In an era of mass production, the human eye sought individuality, the small differences that made one coin truly unique. And in doing so, the 2010 Shield cent became more than an object, it became a canvas for curiosity, a reflection of how people search for significance in the details of their world. The coin's influence spread far beyond the United States. Collectors in Europe, Asia, and the Middle East began trading and showcasing their 2010 Shield cents, intrigued by its design and history. Online communities translated discussions into multiple languages, transforming the American penny into a global ambassador of numismatic art. Its shield, so deeply American in its symbolism, became a universal emblem of protection and unity. And in that, it transcended borders, speaking a silent language of endurance that everyone could understand. For the US Mint, the 2010 design marked a technical triumph as well. The precision required to strike billions of coins with such crisp detail pushed the limits of machinery and craftsmanship. Every successful strike was a fusion of art and engineering, a continuation of a tradition that had begun over 2 centuries before. In this way, the 2010 Shield cent carried forward not only Lincoln's legacy, but the legacy of American coinage itself, innovation guided by artistry, progress shaped by history. And as with all great stories, the deeper one looks, the more layers emerge. The penny, after all, is not only about money, it is about moments. A coin that once rested in a child's hand at a grocery store may later sit in a collector's case beside priceless rarities. A cent that traveled unnoticed through countless transactions might one day be recognized for the faint doubling of a letter that turns it into a fortune. Each 2010 Shield cent is part of this vast, unseen network of stories, connecting people across time. Perhaps the greatest irony of the 2010 penny's journey is that its worth today is not defined by inflation or economy, but by imagination. Its face value may be 1 cent, but its symbolic value is infinite. It represents continuity in a world obsessed with change, humility in a culture that often celebrates excess. Its copper tone reflects the warmth of something human, something enduring. And in a way, it reminds everyone that greatness often hides in the smallest places. So when collectors handle a 2010 Shield cent, they do not just hold a coin, they hold a message. A message from a nation to itself, cast in metal, passed from hand to hand, decade to decade. It speaks of resilience, unity, craftsmanship, and faith in the idea that no matter how much the world evolves, some symbols remain constant. That is the true wealth of the 2010 Lincoln Shield cent, not the millions of dollars it might fetch in auctions, but the millions of meanings it continues to inspire. In somewhere, in a quiet corner of a collection or perhaps resting unnoticed in a pocket, another 2010 penny waits. Maybe it will one day reveal a hidden variety, or maybe it will remain forever ordinary. But even if it does, it has already played its part in a much larger story, the story of a nation told in copper and zinc, the story of a dream that never rusts, the story of how value endures not because of what something costs, but because of what it represents. And as light catches its surface one last time, reflecting off Lincoln's profile and the proud shield behind him, one thing becomes clear: the 2010 Lincoln Shield cent is not just a coin. It is a chapter in America's ongoing narrative, a symbol of hope, and a reminder that even the smallest piece of metal can carry the weight of an entire history. Continuing into the final chapter of the story, Part 10 brings the long journey of the 2010 Lincoln Shield cent to its quiet, powerful conclusion. After years of circulation, collection, study, and reverence, the small coin stands as more than a piece of minted metal. It has become a mirror to the nation that created it. It represents continuity through change, humility amidst power, and the eternal value of history carried through time. The years following its release only deepened its legend. As the decade passed, more and more collectors began to see the 2010 cent not just as another issue in the Lincoln series, but as the rebirth of a legacy that began over a century earlier. It was the first penny to feature the Union Shield, a symbol chosen to remind America of the strength that arises from unity. Lincoln's face on one side, the nation's shield on the other, together they told a timeless story, one man's dream to hold a country together, cast forever in metal so that no generation would forget. In 2010, few could have imagined that a coin with a face value of 1 cent would someday be associated with tales of million-dollar valuations. Yet that is the paradox of the collecting world: value, like beauty, often hides in the smallest details. Perfection, rarity, and meaning combine to create worth that transcends numbers. And so, through auctions and whispers, through collectors' forums and museum halls, the 2010 Lincoln Shield cent rose to a level of fame no one expected. Its rumored market price of $12,340,000 became a symbol in itself, not just of financial value, but of fascination, passion, and belief. Belief that even the smallest things can carry greatness, but what truly made the coin immortal was not its price tag, it was its message. The shield on its reverse was not just a design choice. It was a reminder of strength through unity. Its 13 vertical stripes represented the colonies that once stood separate, now bound together beneath one banner. Above them, the inscription E pluribus unum out of many, one, stood like a whisper from history, echoing across centuries. And on the other side, Lincoln gazed forward, not backward. His portrait, familiar yet ever noble, symbolized progress through perseverance. That silent pairing of man and shield became a dialogue, a conversation between the human and the ideal, the fragile and the eternal. As time moved forward, the world around the coin continued to change. Digital currencies emerged, cashless transactions grew, and physical money began to seem like a relic of the past. Yet even in this new world, the penny endured. It remained in jars, in drawers, in the cracks of couches and the bottoms of pockets, a quiet reminder that tangible value still matters. It became more than just a coin. It became a keepsake, a charm, a memory passed down through hands that never knew its story but still felt its presence. The enduring allure of the 2010 Shield cent also lies in its craftsmanship. Its copper-plated zinc surface gleams with a tone that feels timeless. The detail in the shield, the sharpness of the letters, the polish of the fields, all speak of precision and pride. It is both a product of modern technology and a continuation of ancient artistry. In a way, it bridges two eras, the industrial craftsmanship of the 1909 Lincoln cent and the technological precision of 21st century minting. This duality gives it life. It is both a continuation and a rebirth. The collectors who hold pristine examples today know they are guardians of a moment. Every proof coin sealed in acrylic, every mint state cent kept untouched, is a fragment of 2010 preserved forever. And when they lift it, they are reminded not just of value, but of meaning. A coin, after all, is a storyteller. It carries the weight of history in its silence, its glint a reflection of everything it has witnessed and everything it represents. And beyond the collectors, beyond the enthusiasts and historians, the 2010 cent belongs to everyone. It has traveled through hands that paid for coffee, through donations dropped into jars, through change given to a child who might one day become a collector themselves. It has moved through everyday life, touching moments both ordinary and monumental. That is its power. It connects lives that never meet, weaving a quiet thread through the human experience. The story of the 2010 Lincoln Shield cent is, at its heart, the story of America itself. A nation that has endured trials, divisions, and transformations, yet remains bound by a shared ideal: unity through diversity. The shield speaks of that unity, of protection and strength. Lincoln's portrait speaks of compassion and leadership. Together, they form a perfect circle of symbolism, past and present fused into one. And as years turn into decades, and decades into centuries, this coin will remain. Long after digital money dominates, long after banknotes fade from daily use, somewhere in a museum or a private collection, a gleaming 2010 penny will rest under glass. Visitors will gaze at it and read its story. They will see the face of Lincoln and the words "In God We Trust," and they will understand that this small coin carried an enormous legacy. They will see the shield on the back and feel the weight of unity that shaped a nation. Its worth, $12 million, or perhaps far more in future generations, will mean little compared to the message it holds. For its true value cannot be measured in dollars. It lies in what it represents: the persistence of history, the beauty of craftsmanship, and the unbreakable thread that binds one century to the next. It is the embodiment of endurance, the voice of a people who believe that strength lies not in division, but in unity. And so, the 2010 Lincoln Shield cent stands eternal, a copper beacon of identity and faith. It whispers the same truth that Lincoln once lived for: that from many, we are one. That no matter how small something may seem, its impact can be vast. That even a single cent, when touched by history, can shine brighter than gold. In the end, the coin's story comes full circle. From the mint that forged it, to the hands that spent it, to the collectors who now preserve it, the 2010 Shield cent has completed its journey from currency to legend. It began as a symbol of unity, and it remains one. It began as a product of change, and it became a promise of continuity. Perhaps someday, when the last of the pennies are no longer in circulation, and new forms of money define the world, someone will still find one tucked away in a box, gleaming softly in the light. They will hold it between their fingers, feel its weight, and understand that they are holding a piece of the nation's soul. For the story of the 2010 Lincoln Shield cent is not just about metal or money, it is about memory. It is about how history endures, how ideals survive, and how greatness often hides in the humblest of forms. And as that penny rests, silent but eternal, it carries with it a message for every generation that follows: even the smallest things can carry the mightiest stories, and even a single cent can be worth a nation's pride. And so it ends, not with the sound of clinking coins, but with the quiet echo of history itself. The 2010 Lincoln Shield cent, 1 cent in name but priceless in meaning, remains forever a symbol of unity, resilience, and the everlasting promise that out of many, we are one.